Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Phyllis Marshall. I'm the Dean of the School of Nursing at Thomas Edison State College. And this is Amanda Piccolini, who is our instructional technologist at the college and is now at University of Pittsburgh. Okay. The objectives of our program today is to talk to you about how we developed used Google Apps as a platform for a student e-portfolio in the nursing program. Discuss the use of the portfolio as an assessment tool for end-of-program outcomes assessment, and also identifying steps for integrating the portfolio across the BSN and the master's programs as well in the nursing program at Thomas Edison. Okay. Thomas Edison State College is a public college, public university. It's one of New Jersey's 11 senior public education schools of higher education, and it is one of the first schools in the country to be specifically designed for adults. It is an all-distance education. The school started back in '72 with the mission to provide flexible, high-quality learning experiences for adult students, self-directed adults. We do not take students who are under 21. It's really geared toward working adults. We currently have more than 20,000 students from all 50 states and 70 countries around the world that attend the college. Okay. The W. Carey Edwards School of Nursing. We are a relatively large school of nursing. Again, most of our programs are online. The degree programs that we offer are an accelerated second-degree program where a student comes in. That is the only program that really is a hybrid program. Students come in with a bachelor's degree in another area, and in a year, we move them through an accelerated pre-licensure program. They earn 60 credits. 35 of those credits are online. 35 of those credits are on ground and with clinical practice in healthcare institutions, and 25 of those credits are online. The RN to BSN program is the largest of our programs, and that was our first program where we have about 2,000 students in that program. Those are for registered nurses coming back to earn their BSN after having an associate degree or a diploma. And then we have an MSN program, which is the Master of Science in Nursing for nurse educator track, nursing informatics track, and nursing administration track. And we also have graduate certificate programs. The RN to BSN and all the master's and graduate certificate programs are all 100% online. Students do have clinical experiences preceptored in various facilities, but they never have to come into class, and it is all asynchronous. Okay, we are also currently in the approval stages of a doctorate of nursing practice degree. Okay, the School of Nursing highlights. As I said, we started in 1983 and transitioned the program. It was a competency-based program. We were in partnership with Excelsior, actually, at the time, and moved the program to an online format in 2001. The nursing courses are offered in 12-week terms. We're not traditional 15 weeks, so it's 12-week terms. All courses are offered every term. The college, as Amanda will explain a little later, the college courses, general education, is offered every month. So there are courses going all the time. We currently have more than 3,000 students enrolled, and we also have 3 graduate courses embedded in the bachelor's program for all students to take. The Center for Learning and Technology is from where Amanda hails, and this is the Interprofessional Collaboration. They are instructional designers, subject matter experts, and instructional technologists work there. They are really provide the foundation for the course structure. In many schools, faculty are charged with putting their own syllabi online, doing all the work, uploading everything. Our instructional designers and technologists do that for us. We offer close to 600 courses, 12 semesters a year, and I think the numbers have increased to that now, Amanda, that they're probably over 100 course developments a year. It's a rather small team, actually, 7 instructional designers and other support service people. The Center for Learning Technology really is responsible for the academic technology systems. We use Moodle and question mark perception for our exams, Google Apps, and Kaltura. Okay. Purpose of the e-portfolio. It is a requirement for the bachelor's as well as the master's programs. It serves to showcase the work completed through the program for our students, supports professional development in all the students, and we needed something to document their clinical experiences and clinical competence. We use it to map assignments also across program outcomes and to demonstrate synthesis of learning. How many of you are nursing? Anyone here nursing faculty? Nursing faculty is those of you who are nursing faculty, is very highly regulated in terms of compliance, accreditation, and assessment. We had to build something to demonstrate students' clinical competence, particularly since it's an online program. The accreditors are kind of behind in looking at the traditional classroom setting, traditional classroom experiences. Since most of our students are remote, this became a challenge for us to demonstrate the competency of the students, particularly in an RN to BSN program. So we've really worked over the years to do this. The portfolio is an end-of-program requirement, but the students are building it as they move across the curriculum. The students then take it when they leave, and they can bring it with them for employment purposes, and they can it's theirs when they leave. The important piece for us was to demonstrate the clinical competence and also the programmatic outcomes. And Amanda will show you later how the portfolio is set up for that. At the end of the program, at the end of every course, the student does demonstrate a synthesis of learning for that course and adds artifacts to the portfolio. Okay. We did have before we moved to this in-house product, students had to purchase a portfolio from an external vendor. So we had to rely on the vendor. It was actually difficult trying to find someone. When we did find someone, the fees had gone up with that, and also it was difficult to get support. We ended up having to support it as well, and sometimes there were pieces we could not do in-house. So we were trying to really develop something in-house. What we had before this was that portfolio was completed at the end of the bachelor's program, which was also the first course in the master's program. So students started it at the end, which actually didn't make a lot of sense. I guess it did make some sense at the time because that last course was the course for that really demonstrated their clinical expertise. We have now since moved it to the beginning. In the BSN before, the portfolio was evaluated on its completeness and only evaluated on certain clinical competencies. That has now changed to include program outcomes. And in the MSN, it had evaluated achievement of program outcomes and competencies. So it had always been in the master's program. Okay. Why did we change this? Again, the lack of vendor support was a problem. The cost to the students. Students are as you all know, students are really strapped for money. Nurses' tuition, our nurses are all working nurses, and their tuition is, in most cases, reimbursed at least to some percentage by their employers, but fees are not. So this was an added fee that was imposed on them that was not being reimbursed. So we were looking for ways to save students money as well. We also took the opportunity, the college moved to the implementation of a new learning platform that would support the ePortfolio. We had moved from Blackboard to Moodle at the time. We also had changed both the bachelor's and the master's curricula in July of 2013, which also was a stimulus to change. We changed our courses, the way we, the purpose of the courses, and changed the courses that were at the end of the bachelor's program and at the beginning of the master's program. And we also wanted to change the organization of the portfolio and move it to measurement of program outcomes at the bachelor's level, which we had not done in the past. Okay. How is it introduced to the students? There is a module in the first nursing class that the students take. It's a course, actually, it's called Nursing Informatics. It's the first nursing course they take. So there's a module there that they have to start it, they have to develop it. The first assignment they have to put into the portfolio is established in the second nursing course. They are required to write a course reflections in the last week of every nursing course, talking about the outcomes, how they've met the outcomes of the course, and then how they tie into the programmatic outcomes. We have them throughout the program, really focusing at the end where they're supposed to be. And then the guidelines for the ePortfolio were also revised to include selected artifacts and program outcomes. Okay, so where are we now? We started this, the first course that we put this in was in July of 2013. It is currently fully implemented in both the bachelor's and the master's programs. All students, all nursing students complete the portfolio by the end of the last course in both programs. And our mentors evaluate the portfolio for achievement of standards and outcomes. And we have very strict rubrics and guidelines as to how to evaluate this. Our faculty, we don't have faculty in terms of traditional full and part-time faculty. We call they're all contracted consultants. The college was chartered that way by the state of New Jersey. So we call our faculty mentors. And they evaluate the portfolio. They are the ones who actually teach the courses, facilitate the courses, and then they evaluate the portfolio at the end. The course mentors evaluate the portfolio at the end of every course, but also the capstone mentors evaluate it at the end of the capstone courses. Okay, I'll hand it over to Amanda.
Next, we'll get into a little bit more of the technical side of the portfolio and how we build it, what we use to build it, and some of the benefits and challenges that we've experienced throughout this process. A little background on Google Apps. At Thomas Edison State College, anyone who signs up as a student, as a mentor, or even as a staff member, they get access to a Google account. Through that Google account, that's how they get access to Gmail, Google Drive, Google Sites, and all the apps that are associated with that Google account. For the e-portfolio, we really utilized Google Sites, and that's the primary one that we used for the e-portfolio. Next, I'm actually going to get out of the presentation a little bit and actually take you guys through a sample e-portfolio and just show you how we build it, what we used, and really what it looks like. So if you hang on for 1 minute. All right. This is a sample e-portfolio. So this is anytime a student goes in, they create their portfolio, this is what they're going to end up with. The very first thing that you see are the guidelines for the e-portfolio, and we just used a Google Doc, put it into the site, and this gives them a lot of information about what the purpose of the e-portfolio is, why are we using it, and what are some things they need to know while they're using an e-portfolio. We go over next to the About Me page. Again, this is all created for them, so they don't have to do any web design work. We have placeholders for them. Just a disclaimer, I'm not a nurse and I don't have any of those areas of specialization. But they can go in and they can fill out everything that they need to about them and about what they can do in different areas. For example, down the road with employment, these are all the areas of specialization that I have as a nurse. We have a direction sheet in there, again, utilizing Google Docs, which is great because if this needs updated, we can go in and update the Google Doc and it goes across all of the e-portfolios that have been created. The program outcomes, which Phyllis referred to earlier, is really where the content of the e-portfolio goes. So we have all of the outcomes for the program here already built out for the students. If they click on their outcome, we use the file cabinet page of Google Sites, if any of you are familiar with building sites using Google. And it creates a nice little Dropbox for the students. So all they have to do is go in here, click Add a File. They can add their reflective comments. If we want to have some interaction between the school or between the mentor, we have the comments feature enabled so that they can go back and forth on that. And it just creates a nice, easy place for students to upload their content. Previously, what we were using for the e-portfolio, the students almost had to become web designers, and they had to go in and figure out how to get their content into the site and how to make it look nice. And we really wanted the focus to actually be on here's my content and here's why I'm qualified to achieve these competencies rather than here's how I created a website. In this particular e-portfolio example, we have both BSN and MSN. For the ones we used for the students, we ended up going with just a BSN portfolio and then just an MSN portfolio. We also created areas for a resume, for example, if they have a blog that they wanted to add. And of course, if you need help, where do you go? Google has a ton of great resources already available, and we provided contact for them to get a hold of us if something was going wrong. As far as how we created the template, in Google Sites, you can actually build a site and then say you want to push it to a template. One of the advantages of Thomas Edison having Google Apps and working under a domain is we were able to take this site, push it to a template under the Thomas Edison domain so that it's not something that's out there public on the web, but our students can go in, they can see student templates, and they can select it. And I will walk you through that in a minute. Two things to note as far as using sites and docs for a template for something like this. If I push this site to a template, everyone who creates the site is going to have all this information. If I make a change to this Google Doc, it's going to affect all those people that have already created their site. However, the same is not for the actual site template itself. If I go in and I make a change to the template itself, only from that point on are those changes going to take effect. So I can't go back and change the site structure for someone who already created it a while back. So as far as considering changes, if something changes with the outcomes or if we want to change the directions, you really have to pay attention to who do you want those changes to affect and when do you want them to actually go into place. As far as how the students create the site, it's a very easy process. They go into their sites, they click Create, they browse the gallery for more, and you'll see the student templates under TESC. These are all of the portfolios that we have available for students right now, and we have instructions that just kind of walk them through the process of you're going to select the nursing e-portfolio, you're going to hit select, they have to name their site, and they click create, and they end up with what you saw a few minutes ago. Some of the challenges that we experienced with this. The first were most commonly technical issues. A lot of the time that was user error. We provided them with a lot of directions and instructions, but that doesn't mean at all that they're actually going to read them or look at them. So we had students that had problems putting their password in, and if you can't log in, you can't get to everything else. We had some issues with naming conventions. If you have two students who have the same name, whenever you name a site in Google, it automatically creates your URL. So if you have two of the same name, you can't create two sites in the same place. We also had students who created a site, forgot about it, went back and tried to create another one, and obviously Google wouldn't let them do it. So those little technical issues did pop up here and there, and probably was the biggest challenge that we had. We also had problems with sharing permissions. One of the great things about Google Sites is you can choose who sees your site and who doesn't, and as far as a privacy issue, that's fantastic. However, whenever they don't share it with the nursing administration account or with their mentor who's trying to go in and grade it, then you can run into some problems. We also had some system-related issues that were out of their control. So when we log in to get to Google, you have to go in through the college portal and through single sign-on. If the portal's not working, there's no way for them to access Google. Luckily, that happens very rarely, but when it does, they tend to freak out a little bit. But for the most part, we don't have a huge problem with that. And of course, anytime Google's having some problems or if there's slowness, that's going to affect them too, and that's also something that's kind of out of our control, and we just have to work through with them. And of course, the novelty of it. You have students who have never used Google Apps before, who are taking their first couple online courses, and there is a learning curve to get used to going in and using the features and editing the site. But for the most part, we haven't really, I wouldn't say we've had a ton of problems with that. They've adapted pretty quickly, and for the most part, things are pretty user-friendly. Now, the benefits for it. As I just said, it's pretty simple. It's a website that's already been created for them, and they're really just going in, editing some content, and uploading their content. Again, in comparison to the previous product where they had to be web designers, this one, it's already done for them. It's mobile. They can access it from anywhere. If they upload their files to their Google Drive, they can access those anywhere. And as far as mobile devices and everything, it works great with it. It's very cost efficient. It's free to use Google Apps for education. So in turn, it ends up being free for our students, which is great. It gives them more exposure to Google Apps. It's something that you're seeing more and more, especially as everyone is pushing to collaborate both in school and in work. And it gives them the opportunity to kind of get their toes wet with Google Apps and start to use a tool that's becoming more commonly used. The domain administration support. That was a big one. As Phyllis said, we had a product, we were trying to provide support for it, but we didn't have the tools to actually provide the support. With Google Apps, we kind of had two different levels of support for it. The first was the nursing administration account that all of the students had to share their sites with. They were able to go in, they can see the student's site, they can help them out, walk them through whatever they need help with. If that still doesn't solve the problem, we actually had a domain level administrator that I could go in and I could find any site that was created underneath our domain. So when a student said, I created a site, I have no idea where it's at and I don't know how to tell you to find it, I could go in, and luckily because we followed a naming convention, it's very easy to find that site and to help the student through whatever their problem is. And last, again, as Phyllis mentioned, it's owned by the student. So if after school they want to take it with them and they want to use it for professional development or they want to use it for employment opportunities, they have the ability to do that. And where are we going? We can definitely incorporate Google Apps a little bit more into the portfolio. We're utilizing sites, but that's really it. Some of the benefits, for example, if you're using Google Drive, if I want to upload a video or a really large file, if I'm pulling it in from my drive, it doesn't use any of the storage space on my site. It also doesn't give me that error message that says my upload is way too large to be added to this site. So there are things like that that we should be able to incorporate a little better and make sure the students are aware that these are the different ways you can use all of these Google Apps that can all intertwine with your ePortfolio. We can target more course assignments for inclusion in the ePortfolio. When we first started, there was only 1 or 2 assignments, and since then that has grown. But there's still room for us to grow and keep adding more assignments and more touch points for the ePortfolio. We can use student and mentor feedback for ongoing improvement. That actually is one of the reasons a lot of our instructions and directions and the information we give to students and mentors has come from them saying, we're having a lot of trouble with this, or we noticed an area that a lot of students seem to be struggling with, and we kind of tailor the information that we're giving to them based on what they need and what they tell us they need. We can use assessment findings to inform curriculum change and transition MSN students to the Google ePortfolio. That has actually already started, but both programs will be completely in the ePortfolio. And also continue college-wide focus on outcomes assessment and map outcome indicators in the course. And that's a college-wide initiative with the outcomes, and Google, the ePortfolio really allows us to take part in that. And let's see. And if you guys have any questions for us.
So could you roll this out slowly or try to pilot it, or did you just start?
What we did, as far as we started with the BSN program, and there were a lot of students that were already using an ePortfolio, and we didn't want them to say, okay, we put all of our work into building this first one and now you want me to change it. So what we did was with the incoming class of brand new students, we started with that group. So we went through a phase where we've had kind of a hybrid approach where there were the students already in the vendor portfolio, and then we started the new ones in and have just slowly kind of built it up as we go.
The other question is, was the organization already working towards Google Apps as a platform?
Yes, that's one of the reasons we went with it, because we said, here's this great tool that we have access to, all of our students have access to. Why don't we utilize it for something that could be better than what we're using and students are paying for? So it was already there, and we just started to utilize it.
How long have you had this on Google Apps?
Well, we transitioned it into the first class in July, the July term of 2013. We've been using a portfolio for at least, I would say at least almost 10 years. We've been using a portfolio in the master's program, but we had been looking for ways to change.
Yeah, and that was about the time we switched to a new LMS, so it was one of those, we were making a big change anyways, and Google Apps was one of those things we decided to go with around that same time in 2013. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Does it still hold you to the same 15 gigabyte requirements of Google, so that my individual account has 15 gigabytes? As I'm loading this for the site for the portfolio, I imagine it's going to just have to share that same.
Mm-hmm. I believe under the education domain, I want to say the site is 25, but it might have actually gone up from there. As far as the drive itself, I think all students have unlimited storage. Don't quote me on that, but I believe recently that was something that came out, which is why we are starting to encourage students and want to start to encourage them to use their Google Drive because it doesn't take up their storage. And if you upload anything from Google Drive into a Google site, it doesn't count towards that site storage. So you can kind of get around that site max, if there is one, by sending everything through Google Drive.
Students want the portfolio to follow them after they graduate. How does that happen? Because are they using their school ID to log in?
Yeah, what they can do, they can share the site with anyone. We don't have it locked down so that they can only share within the domain, which is something you can do. But because we have it open, they could actually create a personal Gmail account and they could share it with that site. And you can change ownership levels on it. So if I wanted to create a personal Gmail, I could share my portfolio with that account and just make it an owner on it and have it forever. Mm-hmm. So?
Build your own ePortfolio. Did you?
Yeah.
So is there a reason why you didn't use Lahara?
Why I didn't use more?
Is there a reason why you didn't use Lahara?
I can't hear what it
I can't, I'm sorry.
Lahara is an open source. Is there a reason why you
Oh.
didn't use?
Well, when we were looking at it, an instructional designer and I kind of got together and we just took a look at you know, what do we already have that students are possibly already using? And we just ended up going with Google Sites because it was something that we were very familiar with and felt confident that we could use. So I think it was kind of a comfort level for us, as well as what we know is available and already intertwined, I guess, with our systems.
As far as your template, is it something that you built from the template that they have there, or something?
No,
We actually built it from scratch, and I can pull it up and show you through it.
And that, I think, is where the collaborative, the real collaborative between nursing and instructional design came, because we said, okay, this is what we need, these are the components, these are the outcomes, we have to do this, and then we left it to the experts to say, okay, this, and it went back and forth, like, no, this isn't user-friendly, do this, so it went back and forth a couple of times.
And everything we used is just a feature that was already available in Google. For example, the BSN outcomes, if I go to edit this page, it's actually just page listings. And if you go into the pages, the Dropbox, it's just using the file cabinet template. So it was really simple to do. It was just a matter of talking to them and figuring out, okay, what do you need and what can we use to build it? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And this Google site, I'm more worried about that aspect of it than any other sort of priority.
Well, because it's under the educational domain, it's not something that is out there on the internet or public on the internet unless a student chooses to make it. And that was one of the things we liked about it, is we felt it almost was a little bit more protected than some of these other tools. And Google does have a big thing about privacy for educational domains. But yeah, for the most part, I don't think there were any concerns as far as privacy with this particular tool.
And that was one of our main criteria,
Awesome.
that it had to be confidential, it couldn't be out there. We've gone through a number of those kinds of issues with, you know, when students do YouTubes and videos and all, so we're very, very conscious of FERPA and the students' privacy.
And I think we have to wrap it up. So if you guys have any questions, we'll hang out for a little bit. And we also have our information, what we did up on the slide. Feel free to email either of us. But thank you.